What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 2 of the Dimes and Deadlines podcast. I'm your host, Kenny Morales, joined as always by my co-host, Asher Wildman. Asher, how are things in the Wildman household these days?
You know, when you ask a question like that, I feel horrible wearing a shirt like this because that's not exactly the setup.
What does the shirt say real quick for those who can't see it? Nobody cares, work harder. Very fitting.
So other than being a dad life and other than being a TV guy and other than being an HOA president of my community, all right, I've got the epitome for this shirt of it doesn't matter who I see during my daily life. This is the shirt that I often reference to. And I hope people really do look at it and go, huh. But it's funny. I guess I subconsciously thought about wearing this for our podcast because it kind of really does speak volumes about everybody in the TV industry, especially when you're getting that first job. Nobody cares. Work harder.
It's true. And speaking of which, great transition to our first topic of the day. And by the way, if you guys didn't know from the first episode, our format here is first half of the podcast. We'll talk a little bit about the industry, working in sports broadcasting for 10 plus years each, give a little peek behind the curtain. And then we'll talk about, hot topics in the actual sports world. So for today's topic for sports broadcasting, we want to talk a little bit about how tough it was to get that very first job. Because if you ask anybody, they'll tell you the toughest part is getting your foot in the door. Local TV, yes. Getting in local TV, the toughest part, whether you're a reporter, sports reporter, whatever, it's getting your foot in the door. That's the most difficult part, I would say. Asher, what was it like for you finding your first job in local TV sports?
It was darn right depressing. It was hard. And I'm not as good looking as Kenny Morales. I acknowledge this. Even my wife had said when we were working together in Tallahassee, Kenny's a good looking guy. And I'm just thinking to myself, so that means I'm like a 5 to her. But anyway.
Thank you, Beth.
Yeah.
Tell Beth I said thank you.
Yeah, no problem. You're not invited to the anniversary party. Anyways, so here's the funny thing. So for those that don't know, I covered golf for 6 years, right? Here's the crazy thing about that. I got to do one-on-one interviews with Jack Nicklaus. I got to do one-on-one interviews with Greg Norman. I've interviewed Tiger. I even had a one-on-one with Donald Trump before he was a politician. I did a one-on-one with Trump. And then I started applying for local TV jobs. And what blew my mind was how many times news directors would say, well, how do you handle breaking news or weather in a newscast? And I'm like, what? What? I'm sorry. Has your Amarillo sports anchor ever interviewed Mr. Jack Nicklaus or the future president of the United States? I'm pretty sure your pimple-nosed quarterback is just fine on a Thursday night VOSA. Anyways, but what's funny, Kenny? Even when I was applying out of college, right? Because I did start in golf. I did it for 6 years. I loved it. I got that job 3 months before I graduated. But when it came to local TV, I was applying. And I'll never forget, I had a college professor who said, start calling during spring break small stations just to get that foot in the door, introduction. Kenny, there was a time when I really thought, holy crap, I picked the wrong thing, man. I'll never forget, I randomly, and again, this was just pick a map of a small market, small station, get the phone call just to, that was our spring break project, was interview a news director about what they look for in hiring. And this is why it all is going to just blow your mind how hard this was for me. I called a station in Elmira, New York. Okay, now this was 2006. I honest to God can't remember the station, the news director. It was almost 20 years ago. I'll never forget when the news director, though, returned my voicemail. And we spoke for a couple minutes about what the project was, and he was kind of intrigued. He was like, I've never heard a college professor tell students to blindly call a news director about getting a job or the job market. Anyways, he goes, Asher, what a stupid name. And I was like, what? He goes, and I don't know if I'm referring to your first name or your last name. And just for everybody that knows, Wildman is my real last name. It's the best name my father ever gave me.
That's the funniest thing about when I tell people about you is that there's no way that's his real name, right? They always think it's a stage name or something. No, that is his true name.
So picture me, a senior trying to apply for jobs. And the first thing I hear from a news director is, what a stupid name you have.
How demoralizing.
Totally demoralizing. So after that whole encounter of trying to get my foot in the door, I was then sending VHS tapes. Yes, those were a thing before DVDs and YouTube links. Honest to God, Kenny, I probably sent, and I'm not exaggerating, I probably sent 60 VHS tapes across the country from. Jeez. And I'll admit, I even applied to jobs in Orlando because hell, I was naive.
Why not?
I was a naive 22-year-old. Why not, right? All the way to Alaska. I did apply. I forget if it was Anchorage or Fairbanks. I applied to one of those.
Oh, geez. You were more dedicated than I was.
When it was all said and done, I got a call back from Roswell, New Mexico to be a weekend sports anchor for $6 an hour. I asked the news director, I was like, so am I allowed to have a second part-time job? They're like, no, we can't have you working in the community. It's a bad look for the TV
That's
station.
ridiculous.
$6, bro.
What does that come out to annually? I don't even know the math on that.
I think it was like 19 or 18,000. And she said, but don't worry, you are eligible for overtime.
Oh, thank goodness. I would hope I am. I'm living below the poverty line, basically. Holy cow.
So I then also spoke to a station in Terre Haute, and I spoke to a station in Beaumont. Those were like the three that were really giving me an opportunity. But then I had this amazing opportunity for golf. So let's fast forward 6 years later. I get married. I don't want to travel 100 days a year anymore, living out of a suitcase. I want to get into local TV. Now, this is what blew my mind. I go back to saying news directors were telling me, well, how do you handle breaking news? How do you handle weather? I'm just like, my mind is kind of like scrambled thinking to myself, okay, a local sports guy drives 4 hours to cover a story. I'm getting flown to Europe. I'm getting flown to Mexico and Canada to cover events. And you're telling me I can't drive 3 hours in your 20-year-old Honda hatchback to go get a VOSOT with a high school quarterback? Like, I don't know. It was so frustrating to me. And I'll never forget, this is the God's honest truth. I was about to give up on the whole thing. My wife and I were going to say, you know what? Let's buy a house in Orlando. Now this is 2012. I was up for one job in El Paso, Texas, which, as you guys saw in the first podcast, I got. But what you don't know, and what nobody probably knows about this, is the craziness of how I got this job. So as a golf guy, I was kind of like the Kirk Herbstreit of college golf. And I would guest speak across the country. I'd get flown out to tournaments, and I would talk at events about college golf, amateur golf, junior golf. And this guy in El Paso who ran this event said, hey, Asher, the local sports station here has an opening. Would you have any interest? We think, people would really like your shtick, because I did shtick back at these things.
Yes.
And I said, sure. So I probably did. And I'll never forget this. One of the job interviews, Kenny, was I was at the gym, and the general manager calls and says, Asher, this is a pop quiz interview. And I'm thinking to myself, what is this?
Pop quiz.
I says, he goes, you have to do it or you're disqualified. Now, I'm just thinking, what if I was at the hospital visiting somebody, right? Like, hey, sorry, I got to do an interview pop quiz.
I've never heard of that.
He tells me to go to my car, and I sit in the car, and he says, okay, we're going to give you a mock situation. And then the news director's on the call, as the producer in my ear. She goes, here's the situation. You've just responded to a murder scene. Kevin, the GM, is going to be the PIO. You have 5 minutes to ask questions, and then we're going to give you a countdown till you're live. Now, keep in mind, this is not a sports story now we're doing this for.
No.
Okay. So I do that. I had to do a stay-at-home test with like multiple choice answers, fill in the blank. I had to do a spelling test for these people. It was insane.
All for El Paso.
All for El Paso. And I still wanted the job.
That's
I really did.
Crazy to me.
Because they were realistically the only station at this time in my life giving me an opportunity. I'll never forget this, Kenny. So I told the guy one final time after all these interviews, yes, I want it. I go, look, I want the job. I'm willing to take a pay cut because I was making pretty good money as a golf reporter. I'll take a pay cut. I want to do the job. He said, Asher, I appreciate it. We'll let you know. I'm playing the next day racquetball with my good friend Don. I know people play racquetball anymore. It's probably not the thing.
That's pickleball now. Pickleball's the thing now. Yeah.
And I'm telling him all this stuff that's happening. This process has gone on for 3 weeks. And he says, Asher, you have nothing to lose, right? I go, well, what do you mean? He said, you've been trying for essentially 6 years to get your foot in the door in this industry. You've been doing the golf thing. You say you're applying, you're not applying. But this guy's been, saying you're a candidate, you're not a candidate. Just tell him you'll do whatever it takes. What do you have to lose? Because if you don't get the job and you're rejected, tell him you still want the job because, again, you don't have the job. So let's fast forward to that day playing racquetball. He calls me up and he says, Asher, I'll never forget this. I just got done playing with Don. He says, Asher, I'm very sad to inform you, you didn't get the job. And I was crushed because I was like, you know what? That means it's a sign from up above. I'm going to buy a house in Orlando. I'm going to be a golf reporter the rest of my life, and I'm going to live happily ever after. I call my wife. I tell her, hey, let's go look for homes this weekend. Like, that's where we were at in life. I call my dad. I go, Dad, I didn't get it. He apologized. All of a sudden, I see on my phone, I'm getting a call from El Paso. I go, let me see what this is about. Because before I got off the phone with him, I said, you are making a huge mistake. And if the guy even hesitates for one moment, I still want the job, even though he didn't pick me, because I still know I'm a better candidate, and I still know I can do better than he can.
That's a ballsy move on your part.
Ballsy move. I had nothing to lose. What did I care?
I know, but that's very ballsy to say as a young reporter trying to get into the industry. and telling the news director, you're making a mistake.
I was so angry though, right?
Like, I get it. No, I get it.
I had reached my frustration point of being told I wasn't the right fit for people.
Right.
That I finally said, you are making the wrong choice. And if this guy hesitates for a moment, I want the job and I'll still prove you wrong that I was the right guy. So here I am now on the phone with my dad. I see the phone. I go, he's probably like, it's probably an HR thing you got to figure out. Mm-hmm. I'll never forget it. GM says, Mr. Wildman, I have never been spoken to like that by a candidate. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, crap. Well, this is interesting. He goes, you changed my mind. I'm giving you the job. I'm FedExing you a contract the next day.
That is awesome.
And that's how I got into local TV. And it's just great. So funny. Kenny, honestly, if you think about over 6 years, I probably, this is not an exaggeration that I'm afraid to admit, because I know people have been out there like this. Mm-hmm. I probably applied to over 100 jobs in 6 years in local television.
Yeah, no, that sounds about right, honestly.
And I kind of wonder what would have happened had I pursued it after college versus going the golf route. But anyways, when I finally was able to go back into it and tell the GM at that point, you are making a bad mistake or you are making the wrong choice. I am the guy and I still want the job. I'll never forget.
I love
20 minutes later, calls me up and says, you changed my mind. But that's how hard it was for me to get that first local TV job.
That's pretty cool, though. I love the way you called them out.
But now let's see the total opposite of how it wasn't that hard for you, Mr.
No, I feel bad now. No, I mean, so for me, so I graduated UCF in 2013. I probably started looking for jobs like 2 months before I graduated. And I probably applied to, I don't know, 20 or 30 jobs. For me, it was a little different. I didn't have to send VHS tapes.
YouTube links?
No, I had YouTube links. I sent YouTube links. And so, I don't know, I think in total I heard back from 3 stations. But the funniest thing I think for me, I always tell this story. So the very first job offer I got, it was a station in West Virginia. I do not remember the market, the town name, or even the call letters or nothing.
Yeah.
But I just know it was very small. It was like market 180 something.
Yeah.
And the news director calls me up and he offers me the job, like pretty much on the spot, like the first phone call. He didn't even really interview me. And he was just, going on and on, trying to sell me West Virginia, how great it is to live there and all the sports you're going to be covering. And I'm just like, yeah, sure. And then he gets to the salary. And I remember this like it was yesterday because I was on the road. I was doing the phone call while I was driving.
What year was this?
This is 2013.
All right.
I was driving to go meet my buddies. At the time, there was a Smoky Bones in Waterford. I don't know if it's there anymore, but I was going to get dinner with buddies.
It is.
Yeah, there we go. And the news director says, we can pay you $17,500.
We can pay you. As if that's a compliment to you.
Yeah, we can get you $17,500. And I remember I dropped the phone and it fell in between the seats because I was literally like, are you effing kidding me? $17,500. On top of that, he wanted me there like within the next 2 to 3 weeks. He was like, usually stations are somewhat, reasonable and understand that like you got to make a cross country move here, a big move. No, this dude was like on it. And so I was like, oh, okay, let me get a day to think about it. I didn't need any time to think about it. I was just being polite. Very next day, I call him back. I say, thank you, but no, thank you. And this guy goes off on me. This news director's like, I'm going to just tell you right now, you're making a huge mistake. So many candidates would jump at this opportunity. You'll never make it in this industry with that kind of attitude. And I wish I could remember the guy's name because I would love to show him my stuff now and let him know that I worked in the industry for 10 years and got to go to Tampa for 5 of those. So suck it, whoever that guy was. But yeah. But anyway, after that, I think like a month after is when I got the Wausau offer. And thankfully that was a grand total of $24,000. So not that much increase in salary, but at least I wasn't like, living below the poverty line or, needing to apply for food stamps or anything. And so I took that job. And then literally like a week after I moved to Wausau, some station in Binghamton hit me up and was like, hey, are you still interested? And I was like, no, sorry. I took another job. They're like, oh, all right, thanks for the time. But yeah, thankfully it wasn't too hard for me. I think I in grand total, I think I applied and waited around for 4 months for that Wausau job. And I know people like you or like a buddy of mine, I'll shout him out, Chris Pinson. He works in Missouri now. He waited several years. I mean, he found odd jobs and, did some other things before finally getting a breakthrough and landing a job in Gainesville. And that's just kind of thing. It just depends. Everybody's different.
Okay, what blows my mind about the whole industry, it's like, it's funny when you said when you went to Wausau, you got a call in Binghamton. So here is a guy like, and I use myself because this whole podcast is about our experiences. Again, I was traveling the world. I was covering majors, not like little podunk Tallahassee Opens, which we did locally, right? I was covering the Masters, the U.S. Open. And the rejections I was getting, I was like so dumbfounded by this. Another example, I remember like year 4 of my golf career, I applied for the station in Topeka. And you're thinking, you cover Kansas, you cover Kansas State. And at the time, I was kind of, and also they also covered, I believe it was Emporia State, I think is what it was in Kansas. It wasn't Wichita State. I think it was Emporia State. In any case, I'll never forget this. This was when I thought I was going to have my first TV job. I did the whole interview process. The GM told me on a Friday, we will get you that contract FedExed out Monday, and we'll start getting the process going. And I'm telling my wife, hey, let's start looking for a place in Kansas. Kenny, I never got the contract on Monday. She said, I just wait till Tuesday. Never got the contract Tuesday.
No, boy.
Wednesday, she goes, all right, call him Friday. Because maybe, it's coming from Kansas. Maybe he didn't send it FedEx.
Sure.
I call him Friday, 1 week after he gives me the offer, right? This was just to show you kind of the kick in the nuts. He goes, yeah, Asher, I've been meaning to call you. We had a consultant come in on Monday. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, what are they? They like my name? Just like, oh, it's a ridiculous, stupid name. He goes, no, they told us to get rid of the sports department.
They eliminated the sports department entirely?
Got rid of the sports department at the station.
Wow.
So, and the crazy thing was, and I don't know who it was, but the guy that was there before me, that sports director, got, I believe, a job in Denver. So it wasn't like,
good for him.
He went from Topeka to Denver.
It's a hell of a jump.
So this was like some good shoes I was filling in. And then the guy goes, yeah, we were told Monday we're eliminating the sports department. And he goes, your contract was on my desk, and I just never sent it because there's no job for you.
Right. Oh, man.
So that was also part of my life journey of trying to get that first job. So I thought I had it. So I could have got in after college. I could have for $6 an hour. Then I could have been in Topeka, which, do you imagine moving out to Topeka and then a week later they're like,
oh my God, I would be livid. I would be livid. I'd want to fight somebody. Like, what are you talking about?
So after all this, after all the interviews, after all the applications, it took me pretty much yelling at somebody that they're an idiot not to hire me, who ended up hiring me. I mean, that's literally what I said. I'm like, you are so wrong, making a huge mistake in this. I don't care who the candidate is. You're wrong. You're wrong. I'm the guy.
There you go. That was the difference maker. Sometimes, there you go. Nobody cares. Work harder. It kind of goes back to, it's a big thing in the industry. You have to fight for yourself. You have to watch your own back. 100%.
It's another funny thing, talking about getting that first job. When we were in Tallahassee, and I'm pretty sure it was before I hired you. I think it was your process. It was your process when I was trying to find a new weekend.
Oh, yeah?
I got this one, and I don't want to say embarrass this person, but I'll just say there was a female graduating from a very predominant, very good school. And she was trying so hard, clearly, to stay in Florida. This person was from Florida. Not only did I get emails every day, I got an email from her mother.
Whoa.
Telling me why I should hire their daughter.
No, that's okay. If you're in college right now and you're applying for jobs in sports TV or any TV, don't have your parents.
Don't do that. Then, I also got a football from her with the schedule on it. I mean, look, these are things like you pick up in college. Like, I remember I minored in marketing, and I remember them saying, try to do things creative for your first job. But after the emails every day, the email from the mom, then I got a football with FSU's football schedule on it.
I think I was there with you for that.
Maybe it was for Christie's position.
I think I remember this going on. I remember the football. Yeah.
Okay. So Kenny and I, we had a 3-person sports department. So again, it just shows you. So on one hand, I understand because it is so damn hard to get that especially in sports. I know people think it's not. You see people, all these TV job openings. The difference is, and the best way to quantify it is, think about it. Every TV station has like essentially a 3 to 4 to 1 news ratio to sports ratio. Right. There's even more weather people than sports people.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. Every station has probably 4 to 5 weather people. Every newsroom, you got 4 or 5 anchors, maybe 6. You got about 10 reporters, but in every sports department, it's 1 to 3. And that's about it.
That's about
You're always outnumbered. It's so hard.
It's a numbers game. It's hard.
It is hard. And that's why it was so frustrating me to get into that. And when I go talk to college classes and I talk to kids, I say, look, let's break this down. There's 220 TV markets, right? On average, let's just say, because in some small markets, you only have one station.
One station, maybe two. Yeah.
Let's just say it averages out to like 3.8 stations per market over 220. Times 220 times 3.8. Then times that number by 2, the average size of a sports market. That's how many positions there are in the industry. Forget openings, just the industry. And I think the number comes out to like 1,600 if I'm memory's correct. But if you think about it, you're applying potentially for about you're applying for one of 50 jobs that year in an industry that only has 1,600 positions.
Yeah.
That's why it's so hard. And look, I'm proud of you that you got that first gig rather easily. But I'll tell you, I really, hey man, I was one of those numbers. I got a lot of no's.
Yeah.
I probably got 100 no's before I got that yes.
No, I respect
before I got the yes.
Yeah, and no, look, I respect that. I respect the effort on your part, and anyone else who kept going through it, just kept stuck with it, because this is not easy. But
I'm curious, when you were applying, did the GMs and news directors, did they ask you if you would do news and stuff like that, or was it just always sports?
No, I can't remember. I don't think. I think when I got the Wausau job, I think they were like, would you be open to helping out with news here and there? And I was like, yeah, sure. But I think I did like maybe 2 or 3 news stories. I don't know. I think I shot a fire one time, and I don't know, did some like fan stuff. Maybe another time. I was pretty honest. Like after that Wausau job, anybody that spoke to me like a news director or GM, I was like, I have no interest in doing news. Like if this is any somewhat of a news role, find someone else. I'm sorry. It's just because I got to be honest, I had no passion for it whatsoever.
But don't lie. When you were in class at UCF, did you think for a second, right, I'm going to have a tough time finding a job? Or were you like, I'm the next Stuart Scott. My shit don't stink. I'm going to get a job.
No. I'm someone, like, believe it or not, I struggled for a long time back in the day. Not so much these days. But when I was younger, like just coming out of college, I struggled with self-confidence, especially on camera. I really was like, I thought I was no good. I was like, man, like this is going to be fingers crossed and I can find something out there. And, I was lucky enough to get that Wausau job. But no, I mean, when I was graduating, I was like, oh, geez, I hope I find something in this industry. And like you, I was applying to producer jobs in Orlando just to start somewhere, But yeah, thankfully it all worked out in the end.
I'll tell you, Kenny, there was a part of me where I was angry. Like, forget being rejected. And
I can understand why. Yeah,
I was angry. And the reason, too, is, I look back, I've been doing this for almost 20 years, right? Whether it's sports, news, whatever. I got awards, I've got recognitions. And what's so frustrating about all this, and look, I get it. For sports, you probably get 3 times as many tapes or reels than you do for a news person. It's the nature of the beast, because a lot of people want to be in sports. But what's so frustrating and what was so just angered me was how hard I've always worked. And if you ask anybody in my career, hey, what can you tell me about Asher? They'll tell you he's a damn hard worker.
Yep.
Gets the job done. He will not get scooped. He will not give up. And then you sometimes see who gets these jobs over you.
Yeah.
It's demoralizing. And
it's frustrating.
To quote Jimbo Fisher, our buddy, you can only control what you can control.
Yeah, right.
And
it's so true, though.
It was so I was so angry. I was so defeated. I was bitter. You know what I mean? Because every time you get rejected, look, it's one thing to get rejected by a girl at the bar at midnight. It's another thing when this is your life and your career.
It's your livelihood. This is your dream. Livelihood. Yeah.
I was told no so many times, but I will say this, that for all the people that did believe in me and finally did give me the shot, nothing but appreciation. I proved them right. And I hope along the way we proved all the others wrong.
Absolutely.
And I hope that whoever listens to this is who wants to follow that dream of trying to get that first opportunity. You're going to hear no a lot more than you're going to hear yes.
But you just need one. You just need one yes. That's all it takes. And then once you're in, it's easier to move up. It is with time. But all right, we'll go ahead and transition now to some actual sports talk. I figured it only makes sense to talk NFL since training camp is underway for all 32 NFL teams. You're the Dolphins fan. I'm not a Bucs fan, but I'm in Tampa Bay, so I figured why not talk about them. Sorry, Jaguars fans. Sorry, Ryan Kelly, if you watch this.
Baker Mayfield. We'll talk about it.
Hey, Baker Mayfield, baby. What do you want to start? You want to do Dolphins or Bucs first?
No, let's start with the Bucs. I mean,
start with the Bucs.
Yeah, they're clearly tanking for the number 1 pick next year.
Not if you ask Todd Bowles.
Oh, come on. Well, what's he supposed to say? Yeah, we're going.
No, I know.
Todd Bowles has the personality of a soda can, empty, not even full, just empty.
I know.
Okay, he's just that's why he didn't work out in New York with the Jets.
Yeah, and I don't think he's going to work out with Tampa Bay either. I think this is probably his last season because I don't think they make the playoffs.
But can we be honest about Baker Mayfield? Like, it didn't work.
No.
I'm not saying he's Johnny Manziel, But Baker Mayfield is a backup quarterback who was drafted number 1 overall. He's had so many opportunities. And let's just say he goes out there with Tampa Bay and wins. What was the over-under you said?
So the over-under, I was looking earlier on Vegas Insider, 6.5.
Okay. Let's just say Baker Mayfield wins 5 or 6 games. Hell, let's say he wins 7. That's what Baker Mayfield is, and consider who he's throwing to. Chris Godwin, Mike Evans. Those are two. That's arguably one of the top 5 receiving duos.
Oh, no, absolutely.
In the NFL. But what has Baker Mayfield ever shown in his entire career to make you think, yeah, he's good?
Nothing really. It's just, I think the hope that Bucs fans have is that because they hired the offensive coordinator, Dave Canales from the Seahawks, and he was kind of one of the big reasons Geno Smith had his little, revitalization, if you will, to his career, that he can do the same with Baker. But that's a big if.
I feel like Baker is kind of on that trajectory that Cam Newton was. He was such a polarizing figure that people are buying the hype with the name and the jersey sales, and they're not buying the reality of what's on the football field. Because even when Baker came in that first night against the Jets, I believe it was, for Cleveland, that Jet team was like a 3-win football team.
Yeah.
But his entire career, what has Baker ever shown to say, man, I wouldn't even put him in the same category as Matthew Stafford. And Matthew Stafford's about to be a dinosaur, extinct in this league.
Oh, no, absolutely. No, Matthew Stafford, well, he's still good, decent, I would say.
No, he's a decent quarterback. He's a starting quarterback in the National Football League. Baker Mayfield is a backup quarterback in a starting job.
Yeah.
Because Kyle Trask is worse.
Yeah, that's the thing is that I think it's so funny. They're like, oh, it's a quarterback competition. No, it's not. It's Baker's job. It's Baker's job until he loses it.
Let's just say this. The fact that they say it's a quarterback competition should tell you everything they think about Baker Mayfield then.
Yeah.
Because let's be real. If Kyle Trask beats out Faker, what are we debating anymore?
If Trask is the starting quarterback, oh my goodness, I don't feel good about that over at all. I would take the under in a heartbeat. I feel like if Baker can be halfway decent, you could convince me to go the over. Their schedule's not that bad, and the division is terrible.
This sounds like Kenny the Magic fan talking. What has Baker ever shown you that he can be good? It's been 5 years, dude. What else do you want to see?
I guess the fact of the matter is like, I don't know. Has he ever had more talent than this to work with in terms of offense? This has to be the best receivers he's had, right?
He had Chubb and Cooper and Njoku in Cleveland.
Odell was there too, right? For a little bit.
I don't know if he had OBJ when he was there. He definitely had Amari Cooper for a year.
Hit Cooper, yeah. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are damn good. Granted, they can be injured sometimes, and then they have Russell Gage as a number 3. But then there's no tight ends. Like, this might be the worst tight end room in the league. Can you name me one tight end on the Bucs?
Is OJ Howard still there?
He is not. Exactly.
Oh, and then who's that white guy that came on strong last year?
Cade Otton.
Yeah, Otton. There you go.
Oh, you would not have named that had I not mentioned it.
I said the white guy.
Oh, that really okay. That really slims it down. And then run game, which they were dead last in run last year, and Rachaad White's going to take over as RB1. I like Rachaad White. He could be solid, but
Well, it all depends on your O-line to begin with.
Which is also a question mark because they lost 2 starters. Granted, one of them was Donovan Smith, and he wasn't very good last year. But now you're moving Tristan Wirfs from right tackle, who was all pro there, one of the best right tackles in the game. Now he goes to left tackle, which transition. I still think he'll be good, but
all right. But let me throw this at you then, and let's just compare apples to apples here in a way, if you will. The Jets were an awful team with Zach Wilson. They get Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers on the Buccaneers is a what-win team with the same roster.
With this current roster, Aaron Rodgers. Let's see. Tom Brady won like 8 games last year with this roster. Probably 9 wins, maybe 9 or 10. Because I think. Yeah.
I think that win total tells you what people think of Baker.
Yeah.
A good quarterback elevates you over what you're supposed to do.
Baker does not do that. Unfortunately for the Bucs fans. But anyway, all right. I'm taking the under on that. I'm taking the under on their 6.5. I think they're going to be one of the probably bottom 5 teams in the NFL, which is, I think, a good thing. This is fine. Go ahead and tank and get your new quarterback. Get Caleb Williams, get Drake May, whoever that may be. But how about your Dolphins, man? Because I feel like it's a fun time for Fins fans right now.
It's always a fun time, and then the season starts.
No, come on. I feel like there's genuine excitement for Miami.
If Tua can stay healthy, that's the big thing, right?
Yeah, that's a big
The offensive line, it's like we always, for whatever reason, we can't get the 5 right. We can always get 2 or 3 of the 5 right. But then what happens is there's a reason why there's 5. You need 5. You can't have 2 or 3. You need 5. You need left to right across the board.
Did you address those issues? Did they get anybody new?
Well, that's the thing. No, they didn't. They're constantly giving Austin Jackson another chance. They're giving that kid from Notre Dame. Was it Elsenberger or the weird name from Notre Dame? Or no, Leichenberg. I think is his name. Yeah, right. They're giving him a shot at guard. We got this kid Robert Hunt, who's its left guard. We got the Armstead guy from the Saints a couple years ago. He'll be out there at left tackle. So I feel like we have the left to center spot is good.
It's the right side that's worrisome.
The problem, though, is Tua is a lefty, which means either right to center to be good. And that's the question mark, as we've seen Tua get rolled off the field in a stretcher half the season.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. So many people give Tua crap, and I don't know why, because if you compare Tua to Baker, which I think is a fair comparison of the two, all the hype in college, they had killer stats in college.
Absolutely.
When Tua is healthy,
he's good.
He's good.
He's a good quarterback.
When Baker's healthy, he's not.
He's below average.
But I think the fact that the Dolphins, the one thing that I will say is very interesting with Mike McDaniel, especially on offense, he just says, I'm going to kill you with speed. I don't care about all these concepts of routes. I don't care about these little scrub routes and these picks with the tight end spot. Tyreek Hill is going to run past your ass. All right. Devin A-Chain from Texas A&M, he's going to lead our 4x100. He's going to run through the hole if he sees it. God, let Moses part the Red Sea out there for the Dolphins, please.
I like it.
As far as defense goes, they got to step up too. I mean, the defense has a lot of good spots.
They picked up Jalen Ramsey, which is nice.
And I'm a little nervous about that one because he's an ego.
He's
a personality you got to deal with.
He's a damn good player.
When he wants to be. We covered him at FSU. We
did. He's got an ego, but it's because he was good. When he's still good, but like his prime, he was the best cornerback in the league.
Well, look, the Dolphins got Fangio as their defensive coordinator now, right? I mean, that's huge. Jalen Phillips is going to take another step up. I would say the biggest weakness on the Dolphins is on the interior side of the defensive line. They got really good bookends. They got a really good secondary linebacker, but it just seems like the middle from the nose tackle, nose guard through linebackers we're very mediocre at. I still think, though, McDaniel's offense is worth a win or two. I mean, he knows how. I'm not saying he's Eric Spoelstra. I know how to game plan, but the guy just is like, he's a video game nerd and he knows how to score points. And in the NFL, it's whoever has the most points after the zeros are on the scoreboard that who wins the game.
Speaking of which, I love McDaniel's personality. Can I just say from an outsider's perspective,
I think like him because he likes hip hop.
He's hilarious. No, I like him. I think he's so funny. His little quips and stuff with the different media members. I think he's also the video of him hitting the vape during the Bills playoff game. Hilarious to me. I think that's absolutely hilarious.
See, Kitty, this is what always describes him. You are persuaded by social media.
I am. Yes, I am.
And clickbait. And me, I'm persuaded by how my hat is thrown across the room in frustration from what I'm seeing on a game.
You're the older millennial. You relate more to I guess what is it before you? Gen X? Boomers? I don't know. I don't know what would be the generation before you.
Call me a boomer. Your dad's a boomer. I'm not a boomer. That's why I'm a.
But I would say you relate more to the generation before you, whereas I relate more to Gen Zers, the younger generation. You know.
No, I think though the Dolphins. I'm going to take the over on them this year.
They're 9.5, by the way. You taking the over? That's a tough division.
No, I think New England did not get better.
No,
I think the Jets with Aaron Rodgers are average. They did get better. I think the Bills took a step back.
Took a step back.
Yeah,
why?
I think they took a step back. Well, okay, correct me if I'm wrong. They still don't have a running game. They just lost Najee Hines for the year.
Yeah, Naheem Hines. Yeah, that's a wacky injury. That sucks for him. But
they lost a lot in free agency because they couldn't keep everybody, which is what happens in the NFL. That window is a 2 to 3 year window.
It's very small.
You got Stephon Diggs causing issues because he wants more money on top of the already more money he got 2 years ago.
Yeah.
You drafted, which I thought was really interesting. You drafted Kincaid in the first round after you paid Dawson Knox.
Yeah, I don't understand that. You got like a 2 tight end system, I guess. I don't know.
So you also lost Leslie Frazier, the DC. He's gone. I think so. The thing I would say with Buffalo is, and it's in a weird spot because I think we see this in the NFL. There's Andy Reid's, there's Belichick's, there's guys that are there forever. But then you have guys that are there for a while with success, but if they don't get over that hump, it's just they don't get the job done. Kind of like what Tony Dungy did all those years with the Colts. Kind of like Marty Schottenheimer. Kind of like Norv Turner's. You know what I mean? Like they know how to win.
Good, but not the big one.
Right. And I think McDermott's in that year this year where if he doesn't get over the hump, I think he's out.
Yeah. All right, real quick. Dolphins make the playoffs?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Okay. I like it. I don't think the Bucs do. Well, sweet. That's episode 2, guys. Thanks again for tuning in. We'll be back next week. Take it easy.